On October 1st, 2013, federal agents executed a raid inside a public library in San Francisco. Their target was a 29-year-old former Boy Scout named Ross Ulbricht. This chart shows the scale of the operation Ulbricht built. In less than 3 years, his platform processed nearly $214 million in sales, making it the most sophisticated illegal online market in history. According to a journal the FBI found on his computer, his goal was to build a digital marketplace where anyone could buy anything with zero digital footprint. He successfully engineered a massive anonymous network, yet despite his obsession with leaving no trace, he routinely linked his real identity to the site's deepest infrastructure. Ulbricht grew up in Austin, Texas. He had a happy childhood, attained the highest rank of Eagle Scout, and was generally known as an easygoing guy. He was also a serious student. He scored a 1460 on his SATs, putting him in the 96th percentile, and earned a full-ride scholarship to study physics at the University of Texas. His worldview shifted while pursuing a master's degree at Penn State. He became a follower of economist Ludwig von Mises, adopting a libertarian philosophy that opposed state involvement in individual lives. He made these views public on his YouTube channel. When then presidential candidate Mitt Romney asked about the country's greatest challenge, Ulbricht responded that the most important thing was for America to exit the United Nations. Combine a high-level understanding of physics with a radical anti-state philosophy, and you get someone who believed he could technically engineer a society free from government control. To build his market, Ulbricht had to solve a major technical hurdle. A normal web browser broadcasts your IP address, which internet service providers and the government can use to pinpoint your location. His first pillar of defense was software originally developed by the US Navy, called Tor. This schematic shows how Tor works. By bouncing data through random nodes, Tor hides a computer's identity, allowing him to host the .onion network. For payments, he used Bitcoin, a decentralized currency allowing trade without financial oversight. This tech stack successfully blinded digital government surveillance. It also gave Ulbricht a level of confidence in his anonymity that wouldn't hold up in the physical world. When he launched Silk Road in January 2011, he started small. He acted as his own first vendor, selling a batch of psychedelic mushrooms he grew himself. Building the site required teaching himself to code. When he hit a wall, he turned to a public Bitcoin forum for help, signing off his request for an IT pro with his personal email address, rossulbricht@gmail.com. Soon after, he broke his own security again. Unable to handle the psychological pressure of his secret, he confessed his operation to his college friend Richard and his girlfriend. Despite these leaks, he pushed forward with a growth hacking strategy. Using the pseudonym Altoid, he went onto magic mushroom and heroin forums, describing Silk Road as an anonymous Amazon.com. He applied the standard networking habits of a Silicon Valley startup to a narcotics empire, creating public digital links that investigators would later use to bypass his encryption. Buyers arrived, and the marketplace scaled to offer weed, cocaine, LSD, and heroin. To manage the growing community, Ulbricht implemented an Amazon-style seller rating system to track vendor reliability. But while the transactions were digital, the product was physical. The drugs still had to travel through traditional government postal routes. Dealers got creative with their smuggling. They slipped narcotics inside CD cases or flattened them into corrugated cardboard.
To make these packages look like they came from legitimate businesses, sellers started using professional printed mailing labels. Ironically, that level of neatness attracted the suspicion of authorities. In the summer of 2011, Homeland Security agent Jared Duryegayan intercepted a perfectly printed package at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport containing a single pink ecstasy pill. Soon, agents were intercepting up to 1,000 suspicious packages a day. His dark web encryption worked exactly as designed, yet his entire operation relied on the physical infrastructure of the United States Postal Service, one of the most heavily monitored logistics networks in the country. The quiet era of Silk Road ended in June 2011. A journalist for Gawker wrote an article detailing how anyone could buy drugs online as easily as light bulbs, pulling in 3 million views. That exposure drew immediate political fire. Senator Chuck Schumer publicly called for the site to be shut down, putting Silk Road directly in the government's crosshairs. The intense pressure shattered Ulbricht's personal life.
His girlfriend Julia left him, and he eventually fled the country to live with his sister in Sydney, Australia. The Gawker article ended his anonymity. Homeland Security agents now viewed him as a national security threat, fearing that his marketplace could provide a procurement channel for international terrorist organizations. Under mounting pressure, an anonymous user going by the name Variety Jones reached out. He became a trusted mentor, but quickly exposed massive security flaws in Silk Road's expanding code. Paranoia set in. Ulbricht responded by manually encrypting every single file on the administrative laptop he used to run the marketplace. He even programmed a customized kill switch. If authorities ever rushed him, pressing one predetermined key would instantly and permanently lock his entire system. All of his sophisticated stateless philosophy and dark web encryption had been reduced to a single physical point of failure. His freedom now depended entirely on whether his reflexes were faster than the FBI. In 2013, a hidden digital empire was processing millions of dollars in illicit goods entirely under the radar of global authorities. The Silk Road existed purely on the dark web, shielded by complex encryption and supposedly completely untouchable. But the unraveling of this massive anonymous marketplace started with a highly ordinary physical mistake. In July of that year, U.S. Customs and Border Protection intercepted a package crossing the border from Canada. Inside were 9 counterfeit driver's licenses. Homeland Security agents flagged the package and decided to follow up. They paid a visit to the delivery address, a house located on 15th Avenue in San Francisco, hoping to question the intended recipient. There, they found a tenant who had recently moved into a Craigslist sublet, paying his rent entirely in cash. He went by the name Joshua Terry, kept strictly to himself, and appeared visibly nervous when agents started asking questions about the fake IDs. That single slip-up in the physical mail system cracked open a window. The dark web's absolute anonymity suddenly had a very real, very nervous face attached to it in San Francisco. Still, a fake ID case alone wasn't enough to bring down a digital kingpin. IRS agent Gary Alfred was tasked with a much wider search. Deep in the archives of an obscure coding forum, Alfred stumbled across a user asking questions that matched the early development of the site. The user's handle was Frosty. Alfred traced Frosty to a post using his personal Gmail, revealing his name, Ross Ulbricht. They cross-referenced him against the San Francisco Homeland Security report. The FBI timeline aligned perfectly. They knew Frosty was configured on the laptop of Silk Road's mastermind, Dread Pirate Roberts. The cash-paying tenant, Joshua Terry, the forum user Frosty, and Dread Pirate Roberts were all the same person. His real name was Ross Ulbricht. Knowing his identity was a huge breakthrough, but it created an immediate tactical problem. If authorities arrested a master hacker while his laptop was locked, his encrypted hard drive would permanently bury the evidence they needed to convict him. The solution required a highly precise setup. On the afternoon of October 1st, 2013, Ulbricht was sitting in the science fiction section of the Glen Park Public Library in San Francisco, working on his computer. Undercover agents positioned themselves all around him, operating under strict parameters. They could not make a move until Ulbricht's laptop was open, unlocked, and actively logged into the Silk Road as the administrator. To get him into the system, Homeland Security agent Jared Duryagian, who had secretly taken over the account of a Silk Road staffer named Saris, initiated a chat with Ulbricht online. Duryagian asked Ulbricht to check a flagged message. Ulbricht, acting as Dread Pirate Roberts, paused. For security, he asked Saris a specific verification question that only the real staff would know. Duryagian typed back the correct pre-planned answer. Satisfied by the response, Ulbricht accessed the restricted administrative panel. By passing his own rigid verification test, law enforcement manipulated him into dropping his digital defenses. The moment Duryagian saw Ulbricht log into the master dashboard, he gave the signal to the team waiting inside the library. The agents now faced a split-second physical dilemma. If they charged at him directly, Ulbricht would have enough time to simply snap his laptop lid shut, encrypting everything instantly. Instead, they desperately needed him to look away. Directly behind Ulbricht, a man and a woman, both undercover agents, suddenly broke into a loud, aggressive argument, completely ignoring library rules and shouting as if they were about to fight. The commotion worked. Ulbricht turned his head to see the fight. In that fraction of a second, an agent swooped in, snatching the open laptop straight off the desk, while another grabbed Ulbricht from behind. A criminal empire built on state-of-the-art cryptography and layers of digital security was ultimately dismantled by a deeply analog, human distraction. During his federal trial in early 2015, Ulbricht's defense team tried a desperate tactic. They argued he had created the site, but had long ago handed off the Dread Pirate Roberts title to someone else. The jury dismissed the argument entirely. After just 3 weeks of trial, they found Ross Ulbricht guilty on all 7 criminal charges, including distributing narcotics and running a continuing criminal enterprise. At his sentencing, U.S. District Judge Catherine B. Forrest systematically dismantled the idea that the Silk Road was some noble libertarian experiment. She pointed out that it was, in fact, a world governed solely by laws Ulbricht himself created and enforced. She emphasized that his college education and comfortable background did not place him above a street-level drug dealer in the eyes of the law. If anything, his privilege made his choices even less defensible. The judge handed down a crushing sentence: double life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. That absolute ruling permanently stripped away the romanticized myth of the digital pioneer, leaving only the reality of a convicted kingpin. The consequences rippled through the rest of the network. Ulbricht's trusted dark web mentor, known online as Variety Jones, was eventually tracked down in Thailand and pleaded guilty to massive narcotics distribution. The investigation even exposed rot from within. 2 corrupt federal agents who had worked the Silk Road case were caught stealing from the government and sentenced to federal prison for extortion, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. Before his capture, Ulbricht wrote a private journal entry detailing his ambition. He expressed a desire that one day, a massive, detailed story would be written about his life and his creation. His wish for immortality was granted, though the resulting story serves as a final cautionary tale. The deepest encryption of the dark web offers no protection against the persistent, real-world consequences of the law. Beneath the standard internet we use every day lies a completely hidden network, accessible only through specialized software. In this hidden space, an unregulated digital black market known as the Silk Road operated out of the reach of law enforcement. The platform's scale grew rapidly. In just 2 years, over 100,000 users were using the site to buy and sell illicit goods anonymously. This chart visualizes the financial scale of that growth. Those users generated nearly $214 million in total sales. From that volume, the platform itself collected $13.2 million in commission fees. The mastermind managing this marketplace went by the username Dread Pirate Roberts. Taking inspiration from the movie The Princess Bride, he designed the alias as a title rather than an individual identity, with the intention of eventually passing the name down to a chosen successor. For the multiple government agencies trying to shut the site down, this setup presented a significant problem. They had 0 physical evidence to collect, 0 geographical locations to raid, and no clues to the identity of the person sitting at the keyboard. To catch a target shielded by layers of encryption, investigators had to wait for a real-world mistake. But their attempts to interact with the hidden marketplace and force that error would quickly devolve into chaos. To figure out how the marketplace operated from the inside, a Department of Homeland Security agent tracked down a site moderator. The agent seized her account, assumed her identity online, and started taking administrative assignments directly from Dread Pirate Roberts. At the exact same time, an agent from the DEA was running a parallel undercover operation. Posing as a major cartel smuggler from the Dominican Republic, he managed to build a friendly, direct rapport with the mastermind over encrypted chat. Having direct access to a highly illegal enterprise proved too tempting. These undercover federal agents went rogue, using their anonymous access to extort the platform for their own personal gain. A Secret Service agent assigned to the same Baltimore task force used a seized administrator account to steal 20,000 Bitcoin directly from user accounts. To cover his tracks, he framed another newly arrested customer support employee for the theft. Believing this employee had stolen from him and could potentially expose the site to law enforcement, Dread Pirate Roberts abandoned his nonviolent philosophy. He reached out to his DEA contact and ordered the execution of his own staff member. The corrupt DEA agent agreed to do the job for $80,000 in Bitcoin. He then staged the employee's death, sending his boss photographic proof using an unharmed employee covered in Campbell's chicken and stars soup. The human infiltration strategy failed to shut down the marketplace. Instead, the operation showed that the millions of untraceable dollars flowing through the network could corrupt both the criminal managing it and the federal agents pursuing him. Despite the extortion and the staged assassinations playing out in the physical world, the digital shield protecting the site held firm. Investigators still didn't know who Dread Pirate Roberts actually was. The breakthrough finally came from the FBI's cybercrime team in New York. About a year into their investigation, they detected a series of coding errors on the platform's website, vulnerabilities that inadvertently leaked the true IP addresses of the hardware running the site.
Those IP addresses provided a geographical map right to the hardware. They traced the signal out of the dark web and directly to a physical data center located in the capital of Iceland. Icelandic authorities secured a copy of the hard drives. When the FBI analyzed that trove of user data, they could track every transaction and exactly who was logging in and out of the administrative controls. Deep inside those server logs, investigators found a specific technical identifier. The master computer that Dread Pirate Roberts used to access and control the network was named Frosty. By tracking the login data tied to that specific computer, they saw it connecting through a localized virtual private network. That connection narrowed the physical search area down to a single cafe in San Francisco. The technical team had successfully stripped away the digital geographic shield protecting the network. But standing in a busy California city, they still only had the name of a laptop, not a human face. The breakthrough didn't come from a cybercrime hacker, but from a tax investigator for the IRS. Assigned to follow the money, he decided to ignore the server data and try some basic, open-source internet searches. He reasoned that whoever started the marketplace would have needed to drum up interest for it before it became popular. So he restricted his search parameters to dates prior to June 2011, scanning for the earliest internet mentions of the site. In the archives of an old internet forum, he found exactly what he was looking for. A user acting like a curious bystander had posted a message promoting the hidden marketplace. The username on that post was Altoid. Tracking that specific username led to a significant operational security failure. On a different forum, the user Altoid asked a technical coding question and included a personal Gmail address for replies containing a real name. This animated logic map shows the intersection between these accounts. The investigator noticed that this same user later updated their profile, changing the alias from Altoid to Frosty, a direct match to the master computer found in the Icelandic server logs. The platform was protected by state-of-the-art encryption and a network of international servers. Yet millions of dollars worth of security infrastructure was unraveled by a single, mundane Google search query. That personal email address belonged to Ross Ulbricht. A search of his name brought up a LinkedIn profile detailing his life goals and a manifesto dedicated to undermining government institutions. He was a young man living an unassuming life in San Francisco. For 2 years, he was the elusive Dread Pirate Roberts. He had gone to extreme lengths to build an impenetrable digital shield, utilizing the Tor network to bounce his internet traffic across the globe. But ultimately, his downfall was completely amateur. He survived hostile cyber attacks, navigated a massive federal manhunt, and outlasted highly trained undercover agents. In the end, he was caught by a careless forum post he made to promote his empire before it had even begun. True anonymity on the internet is an illusion. No matter how many layers of modern encryption you hide behind, a single digital footprint from your past can expose you.